But no, I'll say this. The league is in transition from names. We've lost Hall of Fame coaches. If you're comparing it to a time when all the legend coaches was there, it's different. But I think they're hitting on the right coaches. I don't think it was as down as everybody else portrays because I never believed all the other conferences were as good as everybody said they were. Meaning, we talked about the Big 12. Everyone agreed all year long the Big 12 was the best conference in the year. But yet the SEC and Big 10 got more teams in the tournament.
Mm-hmm. All right, wait a minute. So that's a great point. Which ACC coach do you believe will be next to lead their program to the Final Four?
I mean, I guess I'll go Jon Scheyer here. Next
year?
He's doing a hell of a job recruiting. He did a great job. We all, RC and I talked about, what he did to kind of get that team, and they dealt with injuries. As a rookie head coach, it was damn impressive this year, wasn't it?
It was. If it wasn't for Tang and some of these guys and such the hype,
you'd have him in the mix.
You'd have him in the mix.
It's amazing. Honestly,
he did.
Way
he
better
did
than I thought he'd do this
year. Hell of a job.
Yeah.
He did.
Why is that?
I mean, just everything he dealt with, right? You're at Duke. You got to replace the legend, not a legend, the legend. You do it in a way that I think
he did his way.
Keel, right? And that team needed it. They had a bunch of young dudes, and a couple of them were hurt, Whitehead and Lively, preseason, during the season. And then you're dealing with guys that all think they're going one and done.
I don't know if you're ever going to be able to think of a situation where a guy had more pressure taking over a job.
Right.
Ever.
And
going forward, it's because it's a blue blood and because he followed Coach K. You can't make that up. And we said this a year ago. I said because of the success that Hubert had the year before, no one had more pressure on them this year than he did.
I disagree with you. I disagree.
I don't know why. How? With what part?
Who had more?
Because of the transition, Coach K's transition to Scheyer was really smooth. Jay Wright's transition to Kyle Neptune was not.
No. You think Kyle Neptune had more pressure on him?
He has more, and now has even more pressure going into year two.
He has more pressure now because of the results.
Now, not coming into the year. No way.
No, because the other thing was that his best player was hurt.
Scheyer would have success.
Duke, it's K.
We didn't know.
We didn't know that.
Success,
I disagree.
Right.
With
No. Heading into the season,
did not know.
Well, my issue was because of the success that Hubert had going to the championship.
Because it was Hubert?
It didn't matter. He followed up Williams and he took them to the finals. And then so now you come back, you're the guy. You're tabbed as the guy, and again, with a complete, this guy started 5 freshmen, and none of them was Paulo Banchero. None of them was Zion Williamson. He started 5 freshmen, and his best player was the one that they didn't think was going to play much coming into the season. I just think he did a hell of a job, and if you look at totality,
way more pressure than Kyle
I don't think anybody has had more pressure. I don't think anybody's had more pressure than him.
It's Duke.
Yeah,
No one.
You're a Big East boy.
Here's the thing.
So I get it. They look at it a little differently. It is Duke and Coach K. No offense to Jay Wright.
I think Duke can run itself.
Really?
I'll tell you what.
They can run itself recruiting-wise. That you're going to get top 50 players.
I think you could both say he did a nice job in year one, but
he did a better than nice.
He was. Well, hold on a minute. He lost in the first week of the NCAA tournament. Let's not go overboard on better than nice.
He still did a hell of a job
with the injuries that they had.
He did a good job.
I think it was better than good.
Look, I know that he didn't win the award, but Jon Scheyer would have been my ACC Coach of the Year. Because if you look at what he dealt with in terms of injuries, in terms of youth, in terms of everything else, getting these guys ready to play. And
come on.
If the officials knew what the hell they were doing, he would have been the ACC regular season champion.
Did Capel win it, T.O.? Who won the ACC Coach of the Year? Capel?
Capel won.
Capel deserved to win the ACC Coach of the Year.
I'm not questioning that he did, but I voted for Capel. I don't disagree with you, but he's one bad call away at the end of a Virginia Tech game of finishing in first place, and I think the whole perspective of his voting changes going into the ACC tournament and NCAA tournament. And if they're number 1 seed.
To me, this is the thing that sets it apart for Scheyer for me is that he adjusted what he was doing to the pieces that he had when he had them. It wasn't just like what we brought in. It's like, okay, now we got Jeremy Roach hurt. I got to put Tyrese Proctor.
How about what he did in November and December? Right?
Today's episode of the Field of 68 After Dark is presented by our partners over at Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play college basketball pick'em, where you can win real cash prizes simply by picking player stats in this weekend's Final Four games. And pick 'em, all you do is pick whether a player will go higher or lower on Underdog's projected totals, whether it's points or rebounds or assists or all of them combined. If you're like me and you think Adama Sanogo is going to go nuts this weekend, pick higher on his points projection, pick higher on his rebounds projection, maybe throw in a lower on Matt Bradley's scoring totals, a higher on Isaiah Wong, whatever it is that you like. Put them all together, and if you hit them all, then you can win as much as 20 times your money on a single game. Underdog's slick mobile app is easy enough that dummies like Jeff Goodman have even figured out how to use it. So go to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app and use the code FIELD, that's FIELD, to get a 100% deposit match up to $100.
Playing,
yes, he benched his guys.
Benching his dudes.
It took a lot of balls.
Really nice job.
Fanta.
Yes.
I didn't believe in my lifetime that a non-Duke player would be coaching on that staff.
Okay.
Anytime.
That was a big move. That was a great move.
He did that.
Right.
I mean, the thing,
he's done a lot.
He did a lot and was bold enough to make the program his.
I'm not trying to rip on John. I'm not trying to. I think John's. I think they could be argued as the number one team in the country heading into next year, if not top 5.
Yeah, who knows?
But they're going to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
The return of Proctor. By the end of the year, how good was Proctor?
Proctor's going to, I would not be shocked if he was a first-team All-American.
I will have him as a preseason first-team All-American.
Yeah.
There it is.
Right? Well,
I won't.
I loved him.
I mean, he's good.
You liked him in the
Sorry,
preseason.
Tyrese.
I'm a big fan.
Well, no, here's the thing. He's going to put on some weight.
But
He
John,
was
you
supposed to be a
really-
high school senior. Look what he
He's
did at the end of the
supposed to be
year.
Right.
He was so
We're
good
arguing
down the
two
stretch.
different things.
What are you arguing?
I'm arguing that the transition, Jon Scheyer was extremely involved. This was methodically
Oh, wait.
prepared.
You're telling me that Goodman is arguing two different things?
I'm not.
No, I'm not. He's not.
No,
I am. I am. Go ahead. Jump in. Go ahead. Jump in. I thought the transition was well done by Duke. That was my point.
See, better than Villanova's.
That's my
because there was
point.
no foresight. However, here's my issue: is there was never Jon Scheyer is going to be the head coach. He's never going to take over practice. He was Coach K's assistant. He was completely a first-year head coach. I think taking away from that would be wrong in doing so. Does that make sense? So to say that Kyle Neptune wasn't in the same boat, I think would be wrong.
Also, Kyle Neptune's pressure was alleviated without
he was
Justin
already
Moore.
He was already
Justin
a
Moore
head
and
coach.
Whitmore to start the year.
He was already a head coach.
A lot of
John.
pressure off him.
He knew what was about to happen. What John did was much more impressive than what Kyle Neptune
People
did.
want Kyle
No
Neptune.
question.
I mean, there are people out there who don't think
That's
Kyle.
stupid. That's ridiculous.
I'll ask you this.
They were much better down the stretch.
If they're healthy from the entire season, are we having the same conversation about Kyle Neptune?
Well, we shouldn't have one to begin with.
No. I'm just saying, if he has his full complement of roster,
No,
he
they
had
probably
in the
make
year,
the tournament.
Then they make the tournament, and we're not having this
They-
conversation.
yeah, they-
And we're not saying
It's
he
a
should be out
dumb
or anything.
conversation anyway.
Yeah, we're not having
I
a
mean,
conversation
come
like it's negative, but I'm saying the impression as far as his first year. That's all we're talking about. The impression of what you thought his first year was like. Because right now we're like, he has to do so much better next year. And had he had Justin Moore for the full year, they're in the tournament, and then it's just another Villanova year.
Now there's a lot of pressure on him year 2. Who's playing for them?
Well, that's the big question now is they got to go portal
gotta go
hard,
portal.
and that's not a program that they better have NIL. They're not a NIL program at their core. They're not a transfer portal program at their core. They're going to have to adapt.
You covered John. The only thing I would say is you covered John closely as a player. You've known him for a long time. You talk with anybody around him, and you've talked with more people around him than I have, but the consensus was this guy's going to find a way to have success at Duke.
I guess, but he was like the last pick. Like he was never even under consideration until the very end when, honestly, Chris couldn't give it to Wojo. He was fired. Couldn't give it to Chris Collins. He was in the hot seat. Capo was in the hot seat. Amaker really didn't want it. I know everybody says, well.
They won't give it to JD.
Right.
Imagine if this was the offseason and K retired after Capo wins ACC Coach of the Year. Does he get the job?
Oh, great question.
That'd be a hell of a decision.
Good, very good
That's
question.
my point. And that could easily flip. You bring them back home. I mean, it's
Good question.
There was options there, and I don't think anybody, because all those guys ran out of there thinking I needed to have head coaching experience before I got the job.
You know what? If we agreed with each other on everything, this wouldn't be a fun show.